I get more views that way. They have nothing to do with trolling, but it took me a long time to figure this out.
Well, that's what I said.
Okay.
So, no, we should all make videos called trolls.
Right. Okay. Okay. Here he is. Here's James, aka Iliastra. Please take a seat, James. And
Sure.
And I'm gonna do the intro, and please follow my lead. We have an unbelievable 6 frames per second. That's amazing.
Neat.
Hello there,
All right.
welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre, and with me today, and a whole bunch of other people, is of course Joe Yardley sitting right next to me. Hi, Joe.
Hello. Hello.
And where are we? We are at something that is called SL13B. Can you briefly explain what that is, Joe?
It is the 13th birthday of Second Life. So, the community has gotten together and is celebrating the 30th birthday by organising all sorts of fun events and talk shows like these.
Right, and Joe, are we? Let me ask you a philosophical question, real quick. Are we in virtual
Yes,
reality?
we are virtual reality.
See, you wait. Come on, just pretend I never asked you that question before. Joe,
Oh, yeah.
where are we here? Where are we?
Ooh, we are in virtual reality.
And there is apparently a controversy brewing outside of this particular virtual reality, which is that Second Life is not virtual reality because virtual reality apparently, according to some, means that my real-life head movement is synchronized to a virtual head movement, and that is sort of the definition, according to some on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
But be that as it may,
Well, that's nonsense.
well, first of all, happy birthday, Second Life, and it's my understanding that actually today, on the 23rd of June, is I think the official birthday, and we have a special Linden guest here among other guests, and we'll introduce the other guests in due time. But let me start with Landon Linden, who is here. Please introduce yourself, Landon, because you have to go very soon to another meeting, and thank you so much for coming, Landon.
Sure thing.
Who are you, and what are you doing? I mean, not here. I mean, like at the lab.
Yeah, I am probably actually not the best person to answer that question, but I'll take a stab. I am Landon. I've been with Linden for almost 8 years now, and I work with the operations and the platform engineering teams at Linden.
And
Working on both Second Life and some of our money services and Sansar as well.
by money services, you mean the transaction of monies when you buy things and you receive money and you cash out and stuff like that?
That's it.
I had
And the speed of it?
say again, Joe.
And the speed of how fast it goes?
I have something to do with that as well, yeah.
There's a little.
Subtle here.
That sounds a little passive aggressive to me, Joe. What can you be a little bit more specific? What are you talking about?
I was really going for the passive aggressive sort of, of style of questioning. Well, as someone in Second Life, I'm always wondering when and if it will be possible to make the transactions go a bit faster.
Well, I'm not quite sure which kind of transactions you're referring to, and there are a couple different ways you can cut it, right? So, Linden dollar transactions
Yes.
go what I would consider to be extremely quickly. I mean, we have a 30 millisecond budget to complete Linden dollar transactions, and we're actually doing a project right now where we're looking to increase that by, I would say, an order of magnitude, but I think we're actually going to get quicker than that. But beyond that, I mean, one of the things that you could be seeing are actually kind of delays in notification rather than delays in the transaction completion. But I know that's from the user perspective is kind of immaterial, right? But I mean, if you're having kind of problems about some of that, I'd love to take a look.
I was talking about. I meant the cashing out.
Oh, sure. Well, let me put it this way. I would say that there are few technical reasons for the length of the payout. I think that mostly has to do with us having to, understand what people are doing and what the transactions are for and who the people are, and to make sure that there's no fraud or anything like that. And we're always working to improve that process. I don't want to misspeak, but I think we've shaved about 2 days off of it, and we're constantly working on making that process go more quickly. But it really has to do a lot more with protecting our users and making sure that it's legitimate activity that's going on.
Joe is cutting straight to the chase and hijacking our show, Joe. Last time I checked,
that's totally fine with me.
This is hardcore.
Last time I checked, Joe, I'm at the top of the billing of this show. For Jesus Christ! No, this is good, and we have so many questions, but I actually figured if we have Landon for a very short time, and I do want to give him the reason why we're here, which is the celebration of a user-created universe that is gigantic, that is diverse, that is arguably, there's nothing like it. Right, but there is nothing like it out there, and I just thought about today what Second Life really means to me and how it changed my life, and I posted on various social media networks about that. I want to ask Landon because he's working right there at the center of where he needs to sort of get it all smooth and working so that we can be creative, and we have the luxury of sort of complaining about things not getting not being done fast enough. Landon, I want to ask you, what, after 13 years of Second Life being around, I don't know how long you're at the lab, but what does Second Life mean to you? I mean, how has it transformed your life professionally, possibly personally? Can you close the door after you leave at, I don't know, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. and not think about it? Is it that kind of job, or is it consuming you in a good way and a bad way?
Well, I wouldn't describe my relationship with Linden Lab and Second Life as consuming me. I think, this is who I am. This is what I want to do, and I'm not quite sure that the door ever closes with 6 p.m. or otherwise. Right? It's kind of thing where I work with the operations team, and mercifully, I'm not having to. They don't need me to jump in and fix things directly that much anymore. But I certainly am part of the escalation path. If something goes wrong, then I'm notified and certainly jump in and help where I can. Right. So it's certainly not a case of where, like I said, the door never closes, even virtually, when you're working with the operations team at Second Life, which is it can be exhilarating, but it can be a burden. But it's not too much.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of responsibility. But I was thinking, because I know a lot of ex-Lindens, and a lot of them have told me, interestingly enough, the same thing. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I'm kind of summarizing what they said. They said, the time, especially in the beginning, and but not only during the hype days, it was a highlight in their lives. What they saw, people make, and those ex-Lindens express it differently, but I think the crux of what they were telling me in private conversations is that while they may have a satisfying professional life now, it's nothing compared to kind of the exhilarating day-to-day challenges, including madness, that they experienced at Linden Lab. Is that how you feel?
So I would describe it. It's a really tough question, and it's a big one. And I'm trying to be concise because I think it's an answer that deserves a serious response. I think Second Life is one of the most amazing things that's ever been created by humanity, and I know that sounds hyperbolic, but I mean that in all seriousness. I think it's a place where people can come and express themselves in ways that have never been able to be, were never possible before the existence of Second Life. I think that is awe-inspiring, and I am awed every single day that I come to work and see what people are doing with the product. I don't know if that really answered your
It
question.
really does. I mean, it really comes across that kind of, and I've seen it, and we met briefly when I was there last time, and I can see
Yep.
the passion. And sometimes when I say this, I know there's a lot of cynicism among residents, and there's sometimes a contentious relationship between the quote unquote rulers and the peasants. But I can only say from my personal experience that the people who I met are really in this. I mean, the Lindens are really extremely passionate about um, providing a world that works and that enables that kind of creativity. And I just really don't see people who are sort of, kind of phone it in, if you will, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just fix that code, and I go home and I go like, oh my God, look at these idiots who are in this world. Because that
Well,
sometimes you come across among some residents with sort of, that's sort of the perception
Who are
how
idiots?
Linux are perceived.
I would say that you couldn't do this job if you weren't passionate about it. It just couldn't work. Both in terms of the commitment, the level of commitment that you have to have, but also the demands that are being placed upon you. And that's certainly my story. I've been passionate about virtual worlds and virtual reality for longer than I care to admit. Right? I came to work at Linden Lab because this is what I wanted to do. And I have not regretted it, not one moment since I walked in. I have never worked with a greater bunch of people, and certainly people come and go, but I think the core of who we are remains the same, and I think I count myself privileged to be able to come and do this.
I know you have to go, Len, and last question real quick, and I'm also going to go to the audience. Please type your comments. There were some great comments. Marianne just commented earlier, 2002. I don't know if that's a direct quote. Please clarify, Marianne. Second Life will never last. And you put in there 2002. Can you clarify if that's an actual quote that somebody said in 2002? And I also wanted to say
Everybody.
you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley, and I'm drinking a little champagne for the occasion is pretty clear. And
Capitalist.
we have in the audience Chingaling Bling, aka Jackie Mori. And Jackie, please come on stage if you can hear me. Jackie is a living legend in virtual reality, and we're going to have her on for the rest of the hour. An absolute honor to have her come back to Second Life. She has been absent a little bit, I think. She's been working in virtual reality. I don't know. We have to ask her since the 80s. But Landon, last question, real quick. This whole contentious thing about virtual reality it seems to me that VR, and I understand, is defined as a platform, by the hardware makers and by Silicon Valley to a large extent, to classify certain products that are compatible on that platform. But where are virtual worlds in your? I mean, this. You don't. I know you're not. You just answer this. Not representing the lab. How do you feel about this terminology? Virtual reality. Is Second Life virtual reality, or is it something different? What is virtual reality?
I mean, I don't know that I'm the best person to answer this question, actually.
I know, that's why
because
I'm asking. I like to put people on the spot.
So that's why. I think of Second Life as a virtual world before I think of it as being virtual reality. I think that's just a personal distinction. I think it's probably a minor one, right? I look at it as Second Life is a place where we've all come together to create this space, and that doesn't preclude it from being virtual reality. But I think of virtual reality as being a kind of an immersive experience, and certainly you can achieve that in Second Life, but it's kind of not its primary. It's not its primary role, the way that I think about it, at least.
Very good. I mean, thank you, Landon. And this is again. I mean, I don't think that there's a simple answer to that. I personally think we have to open the dialogue, and we have to kind of be able to be respectful to what people think and how they perceive
Yeah.
things. And we're going to talk about this, Landon. I know you need to go. I don't know
Yep.
if Jackie crashed. Well, thank you, Landon, and a little applause. Do people have the good old applause gesture ready to go? Come on, guys. It's 2016. And I think and I think Marianne clarified. Let me scroll back here. What about the 2002 quote? Pundits have long said that, and assuming that with every change we would see the death of Second Life. Interesting. I don't know who you mean by pundits. Can you be specific? Does the name that you have in mind start
The
with an
sky
H?
is falling.
Right. Including as far back as 2002 with the going of GOM, the loss of the prim tax. So it was more than paraphrased than a direct quote. And that's certainly true. And we talked about this, Joe, on the show, how the sky is constantly falling. The sky was falling when voice came in, when mesh came in, and so on and so forth. And here we are 13 years in.
It's always
Okay.
falling.
Isn't this amazing? Yeah, but we're here for 13 years, you know, and I don't know. I'm gonna have to put some more champagne into my glass. But let's introduce folks. Let's start with.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Landon. Thank you, and say thanks to all the Lindens who make this world work. Kitty, I don't know if you can hear us or if you can speak. Have we figured out the voice issue? Kitty, can you introduce yourself? And here goes the dot of Kitty. I don't see her dot. I see the
I
dot
don't see a
of.
dot either.
Okay, and here and Kitty is gone. All right, so we
I
have
think she's relogging. With a bit of luck.
the incredibly shrinking Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. Diana is here, and Diana is a representative of the organizing team. Welcome, Diana, and please tell us, what is SL13B? Is it a celebration of the community? I'm throwing you a softball. Is it the celebration of the community, or is it a propaganda show of the Lindens? All right.
Oh, that was me. That was me. No, this is a celebration of the community.
And how do we celebrate it? How do they celebrate it?
You know, we invite the community to come here to exhibit what represents SL to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's their own community, their art, their scripting, their building skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and we throw a lot of parties too.
Mm-hmm. And can you give us a sense of scale here? Because this is huge. And I was in twice, and I was going with the little pod. I was going around the Sims. Can you give us a sense of scale? How many Sims are we talking about? How many exhibitors have exhibits right now?
192 exhibits.
Jesus
There are
Christ.
17 regions.
17 regions. Mm-hmm. And who organizes this whole thing?
The doctor,
The
Marianne
doctor.
McCann, and myself.
Wait a minute, Marianne McCann. I heard that name before. And the doctor also has a TV show. Is that Doctor Who, or who? What doctor are you talking about?
No, Dr. Gascoigne.
Okay.
He's the ringleader of
There's
this
a, there's a
mess.
doctor in the house.
and is what is the nature of these exhibits? I mean, does this run the gamut? Tell us a little bit more about, because that's the sense that I got. I mean, it runs the gamut, and I said this often on the podcast, that what appealed to me from the first day in Second Life really was the chaos and the unfinished nature of it, that you could go from basically chaos and half-baked art exhibit to something incredibly sophisticated. And again, this lies in the eye of the beholder. What is art and what is sort of crap? And I don't mean Crap Mariner, who is in the audience.
Art
But-
Crap is
begins
in a
there,
world of
the
his own.
ability of most people ends.
Sorry, one at a time. Joe, what are you saying?
Art begins there where the ability of most people ends.
Oh,
There you go.
all right,
It's
philosophy.
a German philosopher for you.
What is that,
So who's a
Schopenhauer?
German philosopher? I have no idea.
But Diana, I
But
mean,
it's German, so it must be true.
Diana, do you allow everyone in? I mean, if I go like, I'm Draxter the Prey and I can res a Prim, I mean, am I going to be represented here? Is there sort of a little kind of I don't know, quality control?
There is quality control. One, just for the factor that we only had 190. I think it was 192. Okay, 190 to 200 exhibits. We had over 400 applicants.
Okay.
So, you have to narrow it down.
Right, you have to narrow it down because, of course, you have limited space. But how is it narrowed down? I mean, isn't that hard? I mean, on what basis? What are the parameters that it's narrowed down?
It is very hard because, one, you're reading it on paper. You're not seeing it in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So we judge it by commercialism first. Nothing is allowed for sale here.
Except your soul.
So our souls. So anybody who would apply saying, well, I want to bring my store here and I want to sell things, well, they go to the side. And then we narrow it down even further that, okay, well, this sounds like it's not exactly the general rating.
I see. So it's got to be general rated. Okay, that makes sense.
So no Drexter Strip Club.
Let me see if Kitty can hear us. Kitty, can you hear us? Can you respond? Let me get to the other guests real quick. I'll go back to you, Diana, because I want to know what your favorite exhibit is. Jingling Bling, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
There you go. So here is Jingling Bling. Let's go to Jingling after. Let's you know what? I'm just too drunk on the Kool-Aid of awesomeness of 13 years of this. So happy birthday, Second Life.
Yeah,
can I get a round of applause from the audience? Come on. We also thank you very much. We also have Iliastra Ascendant here. Iliastra, I'll get to you in just a bit, but since we have Kitty working with her voice issues, let's go to Chingaling Bling, aka Jackie Mori. I think it's easier for me to post on the blog your resume before you rattle off your accomplishments in the field of virtual worlds and virtual reality, because then the show is going to be over. Jackie's an incredibly accomplished scientist, artist, researcher in that field. So I want to hit you with the big question right away. What is virtual reality, and is Second Life virtual reality, and what the hell is the difference between a virtual world and virtual reality?
Well, I believe that Second Life is definitely a form of virtual reality. I don't.
Thank you, Jackie. Now I'm going to open another bottle. Yay! Sorry.
I don't believe you have to always have a head-mounted display on. There are forms of presence that Second Life affords quite well, and the main one is social presence. So even when I have worked in virtual reality as what I call spatial presence, the one where you put on a head-mounted display and you're walking through a virtual spatial construct, and that is the presence you're feeling. Second Life operates on the social form of presence, which is another very important form of presence within virtual reality. I think they're all part and parcel of what we should be calling virtual reality, and these arguments that say it's not are kind of specious, because it really is. If it immerses you, takes you somewhere else, it is a virtual form of reality, and we should acknowledge it as that. Now, even by that definition, you could say films and 360 video are virtual reality. Well, the difference is that in what I consider virtual reality, you have agency. So watching a film, you don't have agency.
Right, exactly.
Watching a video, your only agency is to turn your head around 360. But in Second Life and in many of the virtual reality experiences that are being created today and have been created for 30 years, agency is the primary vector of telling whether or not it's really virtual reality. The agency can be social, it can be spatial, it can be navigational, it can be interactive, it can be all kinds of things. But there has to be something where you as an individual make a decision and you can act on that decision and it changes your experience for you. So that to me is virtual reality. Second Life certainly fits in that definition to me.
This is really well said, Jackie. And let me just remind folks that you're listening to the Drax Files. You're watching Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley, and we're here SL13B. And I don't want to talk about Landon's or analyze what Landon Linden, who is now no longer with us and doesn't have the ability to respond to it, said. He was distinguishing between a virtual world and virtual reality. And the reason why I ask you this question, Jackie, is because Brenda Laurel, and I don't know if I think you know her. She used to be teaching at UC Santa Cruz. Published a short piece on Medium.com where, and maybe I misread that, but it sounded to me as if she defined virtual reality as basically interfacing with a virtual space and having synchronized motions facilitated by a piece of technology with that world. And I found that incredibly narrow. I completely understand why Silicon Valley needs to define VR as a platform, but that's a different story. I was disappointed by Brenda's piece, and we're going to link to this. We're going to link to the article, and I'll bring you in, Iliastra, in a second, because I know you have very strong opinions on that too. But Jackie, assuming that you know Brenda, yeah, go ahead.
I've known Brenda for years and years and years. She's done some of the most amazing virtual reality that's ever been created. I really applauded the piece that she wrote. She and I have been in contact since this now, like 360 video is VR.
Right.
She talked about the most pure form of VR, but Brenda has not used virtual worlds with the social aspect as much. It's the one place she and I differ, and I haven't had a chance to really sit down and talk with her about it. I do believe that once you're in these worlds, I mean, certainly things like Habitat, things like...
That's right, Habitat, Lucas, Artist back then, yeah.
There's so many things that allow you to have a virtual experience. It's all about the experience. Now, whether the difference for me between virtual worlds and virtual reality in that pure definition is virtual worlds can be accessed from anywhere, and virtual reality is pretty much a standalone operation. The ultimate goal that we all were looking for in the early 90s and the late 80s was this totally connected virtual world where your virtual reality was always on and you could go find it. Right. And to me, virtual worlds, especially things like Second Life, High Fidelity, all of these are that sort of that natural conclusion of where we wanted things to be as we saw virtual reality develop. I don't think we ever thought of virtual reality as being these individual standalone platform things or game things. You know, it was something that was to be integrated into our everyday lives in a way that gave us more possibilities for living and for experience.
I'm glad you put it that way, Jackie, because this is something that I'm really worried about. That because of commercial reasons, and I understand them, is that the new worlds that are coming online may be very fragmented, and maybe even Project Sansar may not pursue this what you just described here, this sort of interconnectedness, purely because of sort of logistical reasons and commercial reasons, again, which are understandable. Let me go to Iliastra Ascendant. Introduce yourself real quick, Iliastra, if you will. And before you do, I also want to say, Diana, I haven't forgotten about you because I wanted to ask you what your favorite exhibit was. So I can stream from it tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. But since we're on the subject now, what virtual realities and what virtual worlds are, please, Iliastra, introduce yourself real quick, and what is your take on the whole matter? And I also see that you have a HoloLens on your face. So I don't know what a HoloLens is. Is that augmented reality or
And a
whatever?
nice tuxedo.
What was that, Joe?
And a nice tuxedo.
Yeah, I felt I should dress the part at least.
Yeah, the tuxedo.
I'm very
That's right.
excited
This
to
is
be here
the best dressed guest that we ever had. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you can take notes, Drax. Take notes.
I put some time and Linden into this, so I figure that we're all emissaries of this world, and we should all try and look our best because we're always getting compared to other stuff. For me, I have been in VR a very long time. I was involved in location-based entertainment back in the days of the BattleTech centers. If anyone's familiar with Mech Warrior, you climb into
yes.
pods, and instead of wearing something on your head, rather uncomfortably, I might add, you climb into these pods, and you were immersed in a physical space, which then was a portal into a virtual. So yeah, anyone who's interested in VR should look into the BattleTech centers.
Send
Sure,
me
I
all
can
that
help
stuff
you
so
with
I can link on it when this stuff goes on the podcast tomorrow. Go ahead.
For sure, absolutely. So from that point onward, I was involved in the game industry, became a rapid prototyper, continued to work across all disciplines, so I'm a full stack rapid prototyper. I do art, design, and code. And I'm a bit of a cipher. I've actually been in Second Life a lot longer than Iliastra. And I've been studying it like it was a science. So I have an enormous wealth of information that I've compiled, both personally and secondhand. So I find it fascinating. So if you were to deign to ask me what I think of VR, I could tell you.
So does Second Life? Is it VR? Is it virtual? Let's just say virtual reality, because let's just say, like Jackie put it, let's just accept that VR is just sort of, for better or for worse, being appropriated by Silicon Valley, just like mobile, to define something that can be sold. But when we talk about virtual reality,
walled garden.
Is Second Life virtual reality? What is it?
I think you're underselling it when you call it virtual reality. I think Second Life is more of the, it's right there in my name, Iliastra. It's the prima materia. It is a substrate upon which things can emerge and be built. I think we build virtual reality on top of Second Life. I think it is not a walled garden, in the sense that you can jump from place to place, and I can wear my HoloLens anywhere in these various worlds. Whether I'm in a sci-fi universe or a medieval universe, they all share the underlying properties of this substrate upon which we build. And I think in order for virtual reality to have the promise of what we were thinking it would be in the 80s and 90s, it has to be this shared experience where people build on top of it. It is almost like an operator. So there's a lot of backing for this in like Greek literature and philosophy, and I think we're finally coming to the point where you can truly realize it. And these people, I mean, you've got VR apps, which are these pocket universes that you can't jump from one to the next. You have to unimmerse yourself and go from one to the other. That is so far from virtual reality. What you've got there is a stereoscopic viewer, which is not very interesting.
Right, and let me thank you, Ilyastra, because I mean I'm like almost teary eyed, and maybe it's the champagne, but and 13 years and all that kind of stuff. But I'm so happy to be here with all these eloquent people. Joe, isn't it amazing that we have actually very eloquent people on the show today?
It's quite amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
really eloquent host. Well, one of them anyway.
all right, but it's you're putting this so very well, and especially when we're talking about the sort of isolated experience, and Chingling, aka Jackie, also put it in that way, and I find that very regrettable, because this is why I want to interject, and I don't want to interrupt, but I have to. Second Life to me has always meant a universe, and I know maybe that's kind of maybe that's not real, but I found it to be diverse, and I found it to be, at least in theory and potentially, able to bring people together who would normally maybe not mingle. That is something extremely important, especially today when we all live in these silos. And what you meant, what you were saying in terms of underselling it, classifying it as virtual reality, I also have to agree, because I would have to disagree with Landon, who is no longer with us today, that I find people incredibly immersed in Second Life, and I work with the disability community, and they sometimes have what I learned, really mediocre computers. Okay, they have the Second Life graphics set to minimum, but they would talk in terms of immersion, how they feel the sense of presence, how they feel immersed in there, and their memories are tied to the memories that they have in here, and it's not tied to the fidelity of the visuals, and that is missing in the discussion today, where everybody is just.
Yeah. Have you?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Have you spoken with any of the blind people who use Second Life? There's been extensive work done to support the blind.
I actually have one DJ from Hawaii, who Keao Wright, who is on scheduled to be profiled in one of the videos, hopefully in September.
That's awesome. I'd love to suggest another person.
Please.
His name's Cheeky Monkey or something like that. I'll get you his name.
Mm-hmm.
Another blind DJ, oddly enough. Mm-hmm. Very funny.
Yeah, I think maybe we also our sound technician guy from LabChat.
Right.
He also bad.
So, Ilyastra, I completely interrupted your train of thought, but take it where you will, or anybody just jump in and riff on what I said. And I'm sorry I interrupted, but I'm just just all emotional today.
I'll just take your thread about it being immersive and it being about people. I think one of the main reasons I came in here long ago to build and learn what can I do with this substrate that you can literally do anything with. It's like molding clay. But what really captured me were the people, and the fact that I can interact with the fringe. I've always sought out the fringe. I'm an explorer. I'm always looking for new and interesting people who have vastly different perspectives from my own, because it allows me to have many eyes on the same subject and view it from many perspectives. And that's this whole empathy thing that everyone has started talking about, being able to be in someone else's shoes and see things from other people's perspectives. And it's the strongest. It's weird. It's like I just get giddy when I think about it. But that's why I'm here, ultimately.
Jackie, jump in real quick, because Ilyastra is also working with augmented reality. Let's throw in another term here since we're at it. What is augmented reality, and how does it interject with virtual reality, or is this just such a tiny temporary sort of little speck in history?
Gateway drug.
Yeah, I mean, people are talking about this all the time, that everything will merge, and we did a book club show on Rainbow's End, which I think is one of the most fascinating books about the subject matter, where pretty much augmented reality and virtual reality has merged in that narrative. Jackie, what do you think? Is this a very temporary sort of fight, VR against AR?
Well, I think it is all merging in that they're not separate things. It's a continuum of experiential possibilities from fully physical reality to fully virtual reality. And in between, there's stuff like augmented reality, where we actually allow part of the physical reality to be in that experience, as well as some of the virtual elements. So it could be that I could, and I know there have been artistic aspects that have explored these possibilities. I could have an augmented reality that has my Second Life avatars out walking around in a plaza somewhere and being able to interact with them, and them being able to interact with the physical space there. So there's just so many possibilities of how you mix up the virtual and the real, and they're all going to be part of our experiential palette in the future. We're not going to be limited by physical reality, and we're not going to be stuck with totally virtual reality. We're going to be able to mix and match, and this is the world our kids are going to grow up in. So we better start getting used to the fact that reality, by definition, is changing, because we're able to put other things into it now.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Always this debate or debate. I guess it's just sort of like throwing little sound bites against each other sometimes on Twitter and Facebook and some of these other virtual, what I was going to say, social networks. And I always invite people to Second Life to have actually a one-on-one conversation, but they never go for it. A lot of the stuff that I'm engaged in, and Joe, you too, because you always comment on some of these articles.
I always do.
Right, it comes across, and I always analyze it sort of, if I can step outside of myself. I realize that we, Joe, maybe you more, I more than you, come across as sort of like, oh, you guys are not respecting Second Life. You're not putting it into the sort of context that it deserves. Blah blah blah. But
well, it's a whole new kind of battle, because up until recently, our battle with the rest of the world was that they would say, oh, Second Life is just porn, and we'd say, no, it's not. And then they'd say, it all looks like the graphics are from 2007, and then we'd say, no, it doesn't have to be. So, it was always that kind of battle, and now VR is making this huge comeback. Now the battle sort of changes.
Right, we were so used to battling people who thought Second Life is a sort of a porn chat room for people over 40, and now all of a sudden we need to and now we need to battle people who dismiss Second Life on completely different grounds. We gotta be like really intellectual about it. But Arden is asking,
it is just frustrating. If people judge Second Life fairly and say, this isn't good about it, this isn't good about it, or they say, Second Life doesn't really work very good with a headset, then they have a point.
Right.
But it gets very frustrating and annoying when they keep forgetting to forget Second Life did anything ever. And they're reinventing the wheel. I mean,
it is annoying.
Every couple of days you read this article and they say, it's the first stand-up show in virtual reality. It's the first music show in virtual reality. And it's so tiresome.
No, you just started sharing like comparisons with Second Life to like the quality of the Alt Space VR. Yeah. Anything from its visuals to its ability to deal with trolling and bad actors.
That's right.
When I say bad actor, I mean bad agency, people going there to disrupt things.
Right.
And it's clear that they haven't studied Second Life.
That's right. And you're putting your finger right on such an important issue, because we could offer so much. I mean, that's one part of the puzzle, that we could offer a lot if the dialogue were open, solving issues that they're trying to solve.
Even if the people working on our new projects now would spend just a few weeks in Second Life, they could avoid so much trouble for themselves and extra work.
Yes.
I mean,
one of the things
the only thing that these new virtual things, these absolutely original things that never been done before. The only thing that they do better than Second Life is that they are built for these,
Optimized.
headsets and these controllers, which is, fair enough. But everything else about them, is generally is not as good.
I think core to the issue is the barrier to entry to VR has been dropped dramatically. Anybody, literally anybody, can make VR. That is like, so we took Linden Labs as well as we, the creators within the substrate, have learned a lot of lessons. We've evolved to this point. Handing people who haven't slogged through the trenches this level of technology is like giving steel axes to people on an island who've never encountered metal before. It's like handing matches to a child. Yeah. They literally don't know what they're doing. And it's not necessarily about that technology. You can't fault them on this brilliant technology they're developing and the underlying frameworks around it, Unity, all that stuff. Right. But what you can fault them on is not studying human beings.
Oh boy, Illustra, you're speaking my mind, and I have to really restrain myself not to go off a tangent on my sort of pseudo-sociological sort of obsession about this, because I think this is a disease in Silicon Valley, all around, that they really believe, truly, that they can sort of solve everything that philosophers and sociologists for hundreds of years, try to bang their head against the wall with like one app or something, and it's just not possible. But
and they're not even thinking about inclusive design. They're not thinking about the 1 in 5 people in the metaverse.
That's right.
Who have a disability. They're not thinking. They think it's going to be full of men. It's going to be full of first-person shooters.
Oh yeah.
60% of the metaverse is women. A large percentage of those women are the makers and the builders. It's a whole different group of people than they think it is.
You know what?
They want it to be the people in Minecraft, the build, what are the millennials, Gen Zers? But it's not. It's people our age and above.
Yeah, and I don't want to use the name of our Lord in vain. Philip, our Lord and Savior, Rosedale. But let's be honest. And I know he has been active and engaged with the disability community, but at the same time, I've heard him say many times, and that's just the tradition he comes out of, is, if somebody wants to kind of write a viewer for like the disabled folks or the blind folks, then let the market take care of it. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And that just, I just think that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. And you're absolutely right, Iliastra. You put your finger right on it. The inclusivity and the accessibility is not really, it's not really thought through at all, frankly. Anyway, that's just.
Well, I think laissez-faire can work because we do have those people building and creating. We have people with disabilities building and creating and serving their own community. You've got virtual ability, that whole island, the whole. It's a beautiful thing if you leave good actors to the Oasis and show them what they can build and how they can serve themselves. And monetized it.
Yeah, you're right, and I don't want to be my statement to be misconstrued as saying, and people know what kind of political corner I'm from, but I didn't mean to say that it lies in the responsibility of entrepreneurs to sort of solve every single problem, but at the same time, I find it incredibly annoying and unhelpful if they claim they have solved it by not even having thought about it. That's disingenuous, just like the Marianne McCann mentioned Robert A. Wilson in the thread further back. I'm looking at the chat here, and I don't know what the context was. Please, Marianne, repeat that. But Robert A. Wilson, I just saw that name pop up, is an incredible, and I don't even know if he passed away. He lived in Santa Cruz. Robert A. Wilson wrote with a co-author, and the name escapes me now too. Please help me, Google. Robert A. Wilson wrote the book The Illuminati Trilogy, which is a must-read. And see, Joe, how I did that? I just again showed myself as somebody who actually reads books.
Very subtle, very subtle.
You know, every show
Shaped
it has
by the
it
same
like
forces.
that's a staple of the show. Like I'm an elitist
Drax
who
has
actually
more
reads
than
books.
6 books, everyone.
Yeah, I have 7 books. I just bought a new one. It's the Bible, new translation. Diane,
Finally getting around to that.
right, and we have everybody crash around us. I don't know where's Jackie and people in the audience. If you have any questions or suggestions or your own thoughts, what Second Life means to you, I would like to read them out. Let me ask everyone in the audience, what does Second Life mean to you? This was a video series that spawned about 35 videos, started by Ziola Linden. But everyone in the audience, if I ask you, what does Second Life mean to you on this 13th birthday, please tell us. Diana, I want to go to you because you are one of the organizers here. And I wanted to ask you earlier, before we got into this whole philosophical discussion, what is your favorite exhibit on this 13th birthday? What is your favorite exhibit?
I really don't have just one.
How many do you have? 50. I know it. I have 40. I have 45.
In the metaverse, you don't have to
Your
choose.
favorites.
Oh gosh, there's so many. And I kind of see them from a different perspective from everyone else's. I watch them go from the ground up.
Right.
I have to inspect them. You know, I have to answer questions. I have to look at things a little bit differently. So,
So you have to actually, you're there, you are sort of supervising it. You also have to kind of, do I understand this correctly? You have to crack the whip a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
Look at the time. You have 3 days left to put this up.
I didn't get any warnings this year. I'm learning.
that's because you were good.
Yes. So it's strange. See, Drax, I can be good.
Yeah, I mean, the regions came online, I think, at the very end of March, beginning of April, and been here every day since, and will be until beginning of July.
What is your story, Diana? Because I want to, and please again, audience, type this into the chat. Second Life to me means, and please start it off with Second Life to me means, and then I'll read it out loud. Diana, what does Second Life mean to you?
Oh, it's like watching a child grow.
Meaning from something really cuddly and nice, or somebody who keeps
No.
you up all night, to somebody who is like, Mom, I crashed the car into a 7-Eleven. Can you pick me up?
Well, just like in my experience of doing this for 9 years, you know, we try to think ahead. You know, we try to anticipate things. The experience tools in Second Life, we did not expect near the people that would try to do something with. So it's like watching the evolution of something.
Right. So you mean, but you're talking about the features, you're talking about the experiences. But I also, I mean more personally. I mean to you personally, not even in your function as, you know, somebody from the
Okay.
Second Life birthday team, but just you personally. I mean, what keeps you going still? Why did you go in here, and why is it still relevant to your life?
I don't know. I'm one of those people that has shiny thing syndrome.
What is that?
You know how it is. You'll be doing something. Oh, squirrel.
I see.
Butterfly.
No, I don't know what that means because I wear the same flip-flops for the last 9 years. So.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And you can smell it from
You
here.
know, I'm easily distracted.
I see what you're saying. So actually, the fact that Linden Lab is adding new shiny to the world that keeps you in here. Otherwise, you would have left.
Yeah. Well, actually, my first account was in 2005, and I left after.
You left.
Came back in 2007. I left.
But
It was a hostile place back then.
Now we're talking interesting stuff. Why was it hostile back then, and why isn't it
There
now?
were ban lines everywhere, and no tolerance for new residents, and it was really hostile.
How did that?
All matured.
But how did it manifest itself? So this is an interesting thing. Now, do you think the culture has matured? And in what way was it? Give me a specific example how it was hostile back then.
Well, like I said, no matter where you traveled, there were ban lines.
Right.
A lot of people would just eject a new avatar.
Mm-hmm. So hostile against
or
newbies.
Your other
like,
alternative was to hang out in, or your other alternative was to hang out at a shopping mall or at a club.
Yeah, I always warn people before they kick them out.
I want to read Diana, 1 second. I want to read a few things because people have written what Second Life means to me. Let me bring up the chat here. Miles, 11th hour. Hey, Miles, how are you doing? Miles says Second Life is one step closer to the holodeck. And Second Life to me means to meet new people from another country. BB Chant, and I'm scrolling back here. Crab Mariner.
Oh boy.
I can't read that, it's too much. Donny Daviao says Second Life to me means socializing. QB Terra, hello QB, says Second Life to me means creativity, experimentation, and exploding penguins.
Yes, exploding penguins, we all need those.
So, let's pause a minute and let's applause one more time for the 13th birthday of this wonderful world. Can you imagine? It's been 13 years, and the longevity alone. Applause, please, folks, and happy birthday, Second Life. It's just completely amazing that we're here after 13 years. After 13, yes, there you go. Here's the applause. 13 years.
And the wind light sky hasn't fallen yet.
Yep. The wind light sky, that's right. And
it's been continuously falling.
And even voice couldn't bring Second Life down. Okay, so guys, we have a few minutes to wrap up the program.
Oh, I was gonna say if I had to pick one, it would be Mad P.
Mad P has a
what they did with the small amount of space that we gave them is just insane. They brought something that's never been here before.
Does everybody have the same space? Right? Everybody has the same.
No, not everybody.
You can apply for a bigger space.
Our artists got a 4096. Mm-hmm. Joe got a 2048 because she's considered a historical exhibit.
Joe always kind of like the corruption
we just
in government.
Pretend to an exhibit, but we really just need a place to drink our schnapps. We just sit there and we get drunk, and then people come and we go, yes, we're being historical, and then we drink more. Don't tell anyone.
How long, Diana? How long does the exhibit go? How long? Today's the 23rd. As we're taping this, as this goes to air, it's the 24th.
It ends Saturday at midnight.
Oh boy, Saturday at midnight.
So technically, no, I'm wrong, and Doc corrected me. Our performances end Saturday.
Right.
We are open then an additional week, so there's a little bit less lag, a little bit less traffic, so people can come in and really look at the exhibits.
Guys, go to the exhibits, check it out, and last words. Let's make the round. Last words. Chingling Bling. I don't see the dot, so I don't know if she can speak. Let's see if she can. Chingling Bling, aka Jackie Mori. Can you tell us? Jackie bought new hair. Wow, the last time I saw her, she looked this size. She looked really 2005-ish, but sorry,
how dare you?
Discriminating against 2005. Now, Jackie, if you can hear us, what do you see Second Life's role to be? And I want to throw this out to the audience as well. What is Second Life's role in the next 10, 15 years? Is there a role? Or will they just shut off the lights next year?
I don't see a white dot over her head.
Okay, Jing has issues with the audio. Let me throw this to Iliastra. Let me ask you the same question. Here, Iliastra with his HoloLens. And by the way, we'll link to Iliastra, aka James. Oops, there's a lot of noise going on.
Got some serious noise sneaking into the broadcast, I think.
Where's that noise
That's
coming
the
from?
CEO of Hihatravojoridarforum.
Yeah, please turn off. I can mix it. I can mix it in the podcast audio. But so
yeah, I don't
Jim,
think you can really turn the.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are they turning off the
I don't
light
think you
next
can
to
really. I don't think they can turn off the lights on Second Life in the same way. I mean, it's a mathematically quote unquote perfect universe that could be recreated by some third party. So you've got OpenSim, you've got things like that. The client is already open source. So if there's enough need and enough want, and there's nothing better to replace it, I can't see Second Life disappearing for a long time to come. Right now, it's the Wild West. It's the Cambrian explosion. It's where it's all happening, as far as I'm concerned. I look around at the Neo VR community. I don't see anything.
Yeah, and you know, I've been in Altspace.
As long as Second Life is making a profit for Linden Lab, they don't really have a reason to turn it off.
But let me ask you this, because you know I've been in Altspace and I agree with Iliastra, and I've been in VR chat, and I'm actually doing a show on July 12th with Gunter from Gunter's Universe, Gunter S. Thompson, who is a really nice guy. He's hosting a show called Gunter's Universe in VR chat, and I agree with Iliastra that these other worlds, you know, compared to our world, really have not much to offer. But let's just say that. That the headsets and you know the stuff is enticing, and I have an HTC Vive right here, and it is pretty amazing when you have immersion and you experiment with the HoloLens. We're going to link to your videos. So if you have an additional piece of hardware, and if that piece of hardware is affordable to everyone, doesn't that make something like Second Life look like, oh my god, is this like, you know, the last century where I have to input with the keyboard? I mean, come on. You know, I mean that, you know, even, you know, Leap Motion 3 years ago, when Leap Motion came out, I forget if it was 2 or 3 years ago, everybody was saying, oh, the keyboard is dead. Of course the keyboard is nowhere near as dead. You know, these stipulations from Silicon Valley are sort of part of the business plan, I guess, to say everything is dead.
Crazy.
Hold on, James. Let Iliastra
sorry.
speak real quick.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's, for people with our level of intellect, I mean, I think we're a rarefied universe, the people who inhabit and build within Second Life. We need to have a very high input methodology to get our thoughts and ideas to a construct that others can enjoy, and the best way to do that is either through the keyboard for writing code, right, or through the mouse and, you know, these complex CAD tools and so forth. I think refinements, sure, but I can't imagine, even if you were to give me some very discrete hand controllers where I could have minute control over the Iliastra, that would be a replacement for a keyboard. Keyboard slows us down enough to help us collect and refine our thoughts as we move forward, but it's fast enough that if we do know what the hell we're trying to do, we can get it out there, world.
So in other words, Jackie, I'll give you the floor in a sec. But in other words, Iliastra, you're saying that Second Life will not be obsolete, but even if I don't know, the HTC Vive comes down in price from $1,000 to, I don't know, $300, and you know, at Best Buy, and everybody picks it up.
Second Life is an idea, and you can't kill an idea. It's going to be around forever. It's going to permeate and influence anything that shows up in the next few years, and it'll be the grandfather of anything 100 years from now. It'll always be alive, the idea.
Oh god, I'm gonna have to open another bottle of champagne. Jackie's gone. Jackie's gone. Jackie Mori, we're gonna link. I just want to say we have tons of links on the blog. Joe, go ahead.
I've used the Oculus DK1 or 2, I don't remember. I've used it in Second Life, and I stood one entire happy hour, which is 1 hour. I stood behind the bar, looking at people, using voice chat, talking to everyone. and that was pretty amazing. And I can see that working in Second Life. Without the controllers,
Yes.
without the face recognition stuff, simply being able to look around.
That's
As long as people don't mind using voice, and as long as you're not doing too many complicated stuff.
And I think that's what we often forget.
It is quite exciting.
And let me just say, Silas Marilyn, hi Silas, how are you? And it's great to hear from you. And Silas is making a good point here in the chat from the audience. He says the keyboard allows you the delightful delay to reflect that an RL conversation takes away from you. I think this is an incredibly important point. And I've heard Philip Rostel, who I respect a lot, say something incredibly insensitive once, and he says, well, who needs who needs text chat if we have voice? There is a lot, and this goes back to what Iliastra said, there's a lot of people, and they may be in the minority, but cumulatively they're an important constituent, and if we have any empathy, I think we should really take this into account. People who are not comfortable with this sort of really kind of fast-paced conversation that happens in voice chat and high fidelity. Philip Rostel's New World doesn't have a text chat. The text chat is available because a resident by the name of David Rowe, who is a coder, put it in there. But it wasn't something that that Philip thought it was sort of necessary, and I think that's an incredible oversight. Michelle Leckrone in the audience, who is also in high fidelity, says you might want to ask him that again, Drax. Yeah, that's me. And if I get the chance to talk to Philip again, I certainly will, because again, like I said earlier, Philip is paying lip service to the disabled community whenever he has the opportunity to speak publicly. But I really think that he doesn't put the money where the mouth is sometimes. Anyway, Joe, last word real quick on,
yes,
because we didn't have Kitty. Kitty O'Toole had voice problems, and that's regrettable, because Kitty wrote a blog post about the Oculus Rift not being compatible with Second Life, and that is something very contentious, because we had for a couple of years now the Oculus artist render from 2013 on the SecondLife.com homepage. Okay,
that's a no-go.
Right. So.
Yeah.
Right now, there is no compatible viewer with the consumer version of the Oculus. It still works with the DK2, which I have. Sorry, the DK1.
I brought it up. I mean.
So you talked to Ebbe. What does? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
Tuesday I interviewed Ebbe, and I asked him about it. I said.
Hold on one sec, Joe, because I want to say that Kitty, who was here, but didn't have a voice capability, she actually bought the Oculus. There was a lot of delay with delivery, so she had the Oculus delivered. She was, oh my god, now I can log into Second Life, and I heard all about it. Heard it on our show, because we logged in, and a lot of people logged in with the development kit, and then she plugs it in, and then she realizes there is no viewer, not the official viewer, and not the David Rowe Control Alt Studio viewer. Doesn't work with the commercial version of the Oculus. And meanwhile, the Oculus is prominently featured on the SecondLife.com homepage. It leads to a destination guide subsection, which gives you a bunch of destinations that apparently are perfect for Oculus. So, Joe, how did Ebbe address this in your conversation a couple days ago?
Well, I said to Ebbe, what's happening there, because they've been saying for a while that the new viewer will be ready in a couple of weeks, but they've been saying that for more than a couple of weeks. And he said that they were working on it, and he was going to test a new version of it, probably that same day that he did the interview. But yeah, and the next day, I think it was Oz who was being interviewed. He told us that Ebbe pretty much ran to his office and said what's happening with the Oculus viewer, which was amusing. But yeah, there is still there isn't one, and they are working on it. What?
We have a noise problem.
Yeah.
That's
Carlos.
not me.
Just mute Wendell Carlos, it'll be fine. But yeah, it's you know, it's something they worked on just before the show. I tweeted Ebbe and I said, so you know, how did it go? How did the new testing go of the new viewer? But he hasn't responded yet.
Well, I mean,
So I guess all we're doing is, you know, is waiting for them to finish it, because even if, you know, Second Life is not perfect for the Oculus Rift, you know, if they promote it, they should offer it. And
it's definitely a big
experienced
issue.
it, and
I mean,
I loved it.
I think
Yeah, it's incredible.
I think well, first of all, whoever hasn't experienced it, I think if you already have a relationship to your avatar and to the world, and then you plug in the Oculus and you are there, it's an incredible.
Or worse, to connect.
It's an incredible add-on. But let me just say that I do think that it is a very unfortunate oversight, I guess, to have the Oculus prominently. It's unacceptable. Thank you, Joe, for feeding me that word. It's unacceptable to feed this.
False advertising.
Right, to have this on the web page, and pretending it's fully compatible, and even linking to this subsection of the destination guide, which has a bunch of landmarks that are sort of optimized, or I guess have less lag. And we all know that the specifications of the Oculus, to, you know, that they sort of that they need 90 frames per second to have a comfortable experience. Second Life will not meet that,
Yeah,
but that's not the point. It's not the point. Second Life may not ever meet that. We know all that, but still, it's a real fun experience, and I just really don't know why they don't prioritize getting that viewer up to speed so that it works with the commercial version of the Oculus. I really don't understand.
The least they should do is make it clear on the website that at the moment it only works with the DK1 or DK2. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but that's still, I mean, that's just also
DK2.
unacceptable, because it's just completely outdated. I mean, who has that? You know,
Yeah,
people
of
are
course,
waiting
but, you know,
around to buy their Oculus, and they're going like, oh, when will they deliver it? And it's still there. I mean, you know, this is, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm thinking like, isn't this also a potential issue from a legal perspective, that you're really doing incredibly false advertising? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Iliastra, go
I
ahead.
I think
know-
Don't worry, they'll false advertise all the time. Believe
That's
me.
true.
Somebody says, believe me. That's always a good way to.
But you know,
I don't believe the company.
That's
anyway,
what Donald Trump says.
every-
Believe me, the Mexicans. Anyway, so who's talking right now? I'm sorry.
Not me.
Go ahead, Elias.
Tina.
It's great
Gallery.
again.
Right, I do
Anyway,
have a hat on.
Ebbe-
Make Second
Ebbe-
Life great again. Yes.
Ebbe did say that he was giving,
It's great
that they were
again.
going to give him a demonstration
ruin
of
your
the new Oculus viewer, probably that day. So he may have had a demonstration of the Oculus viewer this week. And he said it's around the corner. So we went from in a couple of weeks that turned out to be a couple of months from around the corner. All we can do is wait and keep asking.
And
I
when
mean,
it does
asking
drop,
Twitter.
though, when it does release, it will send reverberations throughout the entire Neo VR community, because now all these people writing these blogs with their crazy opinions, who haven't really seen it because the on-ramp into
Exactly.
Second Life is so difficult, will now say, well, what, hey, all this progress we supposedly made in the last few years, why does Second Life look better this way? Why are 110 people able to get together in a room and talk to one another in Second Life, that old codger, when we're getting excited about seeing, somebody perform in a room full of 20 people?
And
When people start drawing these comparisons on a more one-to-one level, the media is going to go bananas.
And not to mention that
What's your
I've
thought
not
on the
yet seen
Kinect?
better avatars in any VR out there, as we
Nor
have in
have I.
Second
Okay,
Life.
Marianne,
Not talking
okay.
about myself, of course.
folks, we're 15 minutes over, and Marianne in the audience is leaving us, so we might as well just end the show right here. Marianne has to work on the new Drax Files episode. She's the production designer, without
Poor thing.
whom I will.
Wait, this is a show?
There's somebody in the audience. See the beauty.
Yeah.
But Iliastra,
Right.
you're making a great point, because I also wanted to add real quick, and then we'll end this, that high fidelity, Philip Rosedale's new venture also, and I think that's something that we have forgotten. Everybody is competing for eyeballs. Everybody is competing, and sort of stealing eyeballs from someone else. And I think that's my personal opinion. When people run around like Philip did in 2007, that in a year 2 billion people will be in Second Life, I think that's somewhat delusional. I certainly can see everyone that I meet in the street to have an incredibly added value and great experience in a virtual world, but the reality is such that most people don't do it, and they just zone out in front of the TV.
Well, give it time.
I don't know. I mean, again, yeah, I know, Joe. That's
It
the
may
argument of
take
people
a little
go.
longer, but
Right,
there's going to be a VR kit in every household before you know it.
yeah. Wow, are you married to
We can
Philip
keep
Rosedale?
the mouth breathers out. I'll be thrilled.
There's going to be more VR headsets than there are televisions in households within a decade.
I want to have
I'm
Trump
sure of it.
world, where I only meet Trump supporters.
But what about people like me
Diana.
that are visually impaired?
Make America
Diana.
great again.
Wait, let's have Diana have the last word, please. Diana, I didn't know this about you. You're visually impaired. Please elaborate. And
Yeah.
And how does your experience compare?
I mean, 3D movies are lost on me
Mm.
because I am legally blind in one eye, and I have perfect vision in the other eye. So a headset probably wouldn't work for someone like me, or people that are completely blind.
Absolutely, yeah, probably right.
That goes
You'll have
back to
immersion, but not
Ilyastra's.
stereoscopy.
Pardon?
It's all about agents. Sorry, I might be interrupting. I'm not sure. I think you'll still benefit from the immersion, but the stereoscopy, you enjoy present reality just fine. You just don't have stereoscopy. You have monoscopic vision. You have a problem with depth. You'll still benefit from the agency. Working in a physical universe that is somewhat different from our own, where you can start building things anywhere and experience things you've never seen before. I think it'll still
Yeah,
have value.
possibly it could be a lot
Speaking
cooler
as
than the
someone
one
in the
good
industry.
eye.
I'll bet, yeah.
But I think what Diana is speaking to is what you said, Iliastra, earlier, that a lot of people are left behind with new technology that is just sort of geared towards, people with money, or just sort of a fairly narrow.
They only see what's in front of their eyes.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people I think the Neo VR community is trying to appeal to. Oh, you need 90 frames per second. It's not. I mean, yeah, you need 90 frames a second, but I think they're putting out all these really high hardware considerations because they want everything to be rendered very realistically. They want people to give them what they're expecting, to see what they see now in front of their eyes. They're not thinking about abstract universes. They're not thinking about abstract ideas that can be visualized in new and interesting ways. They're giving people the popcorn, for their brains that they get when they go to a movie theater. We want to give them something different, I think, in Second Life. We want to give them the ability to see things that you can see nowhere else,
Second
nowhere in
Life great
reality.
again.
Iliastra is speaking my mind once again, because I also, and we need to wrap up the show, but I also, and we talk about this almost on a weekly basis, I do think that when people say Second Life is not immersive, to me that's sometimes a testament to how little imagination they have.
They don't engage.
They don't engage, exactly. And everything that is made now seems to me primarily to cater to people who are already enabled to engage. It's facilitating and sort of, it's a downward spiral to even less engagement, to less investment, to just get a fix and a constant sort of high. It's almost like selling a drug. And isn't that ironic? Because a lot of people in my surroundings would say, "Oh, Second Life is a drug. Second Life is you're addicted to something." And I say, you guys have no idea what's coming.
Absolutely. And the people who worry about that are usually the ones who spend as much time as we spend in Second Life watching television or being on Facebook.
Katie Burnett said, "We don't need a headset to get engaged." Yeah, you need a good conversation, and you need to engage with another human being. Well,
you need a ring and a church.
A church? What? I'm an atheist.
She's talking about marriage.
Oh,
You need a ring to get engaged. And
that's
church to get married.
Okay, we gotta wrap up the show. Diana, please come back on the show and we'll talk a little bit more in depth. And it's always a challenge to when you have more than 3 panelists to get everyone in. And thank you, audience, for showing up and keeping us engaged. I'll put this up on the stream right now, and it'll be on the podcast tomorrow. This is the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. This is the last show before the summer break. We're going to... ever? Oh, you're out? Okay, good. Well, thank you, Joe. I'm sorry, I didn't...
No.
I was so afraid to try to ask you to please go away, but no, you volunteered, so it's good.
I'm taking over.
And Michelle, thank you. Michelle, thank you for coming over to... This is Second Life for you.
Yeah, I'm alive.
Did you just hear that? Are you calling me
At
a
its
whore?
worst, to be fair.
No, I mean, but isn't this also the awesomeness, at this 13th birthday, that we can have this chaos and we kind of embrace it, and it's just awesome. Thank you, Michelle, for visiting us from High Fidelity. I know you're very busy over there. And this is the last show for the summer. We're going to take a 2-month summer break. We're going to have reruns, and we have plenty of shows that if you haven't listened to them, I think you should. We have a show on sex and virtual worlds, which was the highest rated show. What a surprise. Right. That was the highest rated show in 2 years. I'm totally sellout, man.
Good thing I was.
Arduin, what are you talking about?
I haven't seen that show, but I'm not sure I want to.
I think
It's very tasteful, actually.
Participating or
Really well done.
Diana, I think you should. We have a fabulous Second Life resident who talks in depth about her experience, about how to connect with people in SL, and it's a great show.
Is that what they call it these days?
No,
That's quite eloquent. I mean, let's be fair. I thought it was very tasteful, Drax. I thought it really well done.
no. I mean, these are people
clickbait.
who are well spoken and who talk about a sensitive subject that I think has to be discussed, and it's really unproductive to hand the subject over to the tabloids, if you will. And Miss Voigt, who was on the show from Second Life, talks about her relationships and how she actually met someone in real life through that. So the kids in the audience, the 13-year-olds in the audience, of course, because we're SL13B, the 13-year-olds in the audience are making inappropriate comments like Arden says, "I was naked while co-hosting the podcast." Smoothie says,
You always do that, Drax.
I'm going to wrap it, guys. Okay,
Good idea.
Happy 13th birthday, Second Life. Goodbye. Cut the stream right
Bye-bye.
here.
Auf Wiedersehen.